I needed to get in community with others who understood what I was going through. And I needed healthy community. One of my core values is authenticity. So like, if you ask me how I am, I'm going to answer that question.
You're going to tell us. Yeah.
And so I would be at church in children's wing and someone would be like, hey, how are you? And I'd be like, I'm not okay. And I would just like give them authenticity. And then you see the big eyes and the slow back away, and I'll be praying for you. And then they never speak to you, you know, for months or whatever. I realized I was just experiencing a new level of rejection. I'd already experienced this rejection from my husband. And now I was starting to experience rejection from my community because no one really knew what to do with me. It was adding to the trauma and the betrayal for me of like, great, now I've not only lost this intimacy with my husband, and I was still trying to figure out what all that meant, but now I'm starting to lose friendships because either I'm too much or somehow or another I'm damaged goods or whatever it looked like. Or for a lot of it though, it was even, I was talking about something that was actively happening in their relationship and they weren't ready to discuss it.
Right.
So I was kind of holding the mirror up, and that was a hot mess. So it was a really important season. It was very hard. I'm never going to say it was easy, but it was an important season for me to come to terms with. Not all friends are created equal. The best example I can give that, if I take it out of my betrayal story. So we have 5 children. My husband and I have 5 kids, and our youngest son is adopted. And I remember in the early days of even the idea of adoption, asking certain people and then realizing, oh, if they don't have any experience with adoption, they're not going to be very helpful for me, right? So they're not going to help me with what does transitioning home look like, or how do I, make sure that my other kids feel just as valuable and important in our family, all the questions that come with basic adoption stuff. And so we began to create a circle of friends who were adopted parents. And that was vital for us. We needed those people in that particular season to do that. And what I became to understand, what I have realized is that that's true in a lot of different ways. It was definitely true in my betrayal story. I needed to get in community with others who understood what I was going through. And I needed healthy community. I did experience some unhealthy community, show up at the meeting. The women were just so broken and they're so hurt. And we didn't have a very strong facilitator at the time. And that woman did not have her own betrayal story. So it kind of felt like you're being led by a blind shepherd, right? She didn't know where she was taking us. And that was super hard. And, it was just such an invaluable experience for me to eventually find healthy, safe community that could let me heal and be right where I was.
This is something that a conversation I find myself having pretty regularly with couples, with betrayed partners, when I work with them or do some consultation or whatever. And that is, what is healthy community? And what I'm hearing you say, I just want to reflect it back to make sure I'm hearing you right and let you expand on any of this if you want. But I'm hearing, number one, it's people who you don't have to defend yourself to them. You don't have to put on airs around them. You don't have to overly contain or hide parts of your own story, what you're going through, probably because they've been there as well. So they get it in an experiential sort of way. You also just talked about making sure that the person who is facilitating or leading this group has some, whether it's on the job training, through life experience of their own or formal training, that they get the partner experience. Otherwise, it's not very helpful.
I think having a healthy facilitator is a must. I will say that I think that we as women have an intuition. We can tell you when it's healthy and when it's not. I think that healthy facilitators are not always going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to give you truth and love. And I think that's super, super important for us as we're trying to heal. But also a healthy facilitator is not going to tell you how to do it. There's a real distinction there, right? And that's always a kind of a flag that I've encourage women to consider when they're talking about looking for local community. It's like, hey, if you're stepping in there and you've got women in there who are telling you how to do your recovery, that's a problem. That is them taking ownership for something that they're not a part of. And they're attempting to try and force their agenda on you and assume that their recovery story is the way that recovery happens. And that is not true, right? We're individually created and our stories are very independent of each other, and the things that are important in my relationship are going to be very different from another couple. And so I can't necessarily take on this woman's template and do it
Right.
just like she did.
And so there's a balance there. On the one hand, having
Yeah.
that personal experience, that knowledge is an asset, but it could also become a hindrance if someone thinks, well, this is how I did it, so this is how everyone's going to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I know, you know, cause I'm in recovery and I work with addicts, and it's very similar, parallel on, you know, on this side of things, right? Like, it's helpful to have that experience, and I can't impose that. And I think, I mean, here, you and I'm about to pat us both on the back here. It takes great maturity to be able to walk that line and discern that.